Folks, Joe Biden got heckled in Maryland this weekend, and it was bad, folks. I mean, I don't know about how your weekend was this past weekend, but it couldn't have gotten any worse than Joe Biden's. Take a look.
Hello, Maryland Democrats. It's a constant push and pull between peril and possibility. It's a battle that's never truly over. And well, look.
Oh my gosh. They're calling him Genocide Joe.
Well, I can't sugarcoat it. These are indeed dark days. Let's remember. We are one of the only countries in the world that's come face to face with every crisis we've faced stronger than we went into it. Every single time we come out stronger than we went in. Time and again throughout our history. We Americans have some of the better angels of our nature. Brought our country back from the brink. I believe with every fiber of my being. And with your help, we're going to do that again this November.
Wow. Oh, and that's not the worst of it. Take a look at this one.
Get up, damn it. Get up. Get up now. And continue this fight. So let's get up and fight back, God darn it. House seat that was previously held by a Republican, had won the last election by 19 points. That seat just happens to represent a quaint little place you all heard of, Mar-a-Lago. I love you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Once again, he doesn't know how to get off the stage. He doesn't know where to go. Oh my gosh. Shelly, what are your thoughts? This was at a gala, a fundraiser this weekend here in Maryland. And this marks the 2-year anniversary of his debate against President Trump that it basically ended his 2024 re-election campaign. This was right here in Maryland, and it was a mess. Shelly, what are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, why are they having an anniversary about that? I mean, who would want to commemorate that fiasco that it was, that debate? Number one. Number two, they should have asked him or mandated that he wears a mask, because all those people who coming behind him, touching that damn microphone and all of that damn spit and slobber up in the air, all of that, they should have worn a mask, and they maybe should have cleaned it out with some kind of respirator to take out all the different debris in the air. It was sickening. Okay, leave that man at Delaware Beach so he can just lie in the sun and just go gently into the sunset. He looked like Carpathia standing there from the movie Left Behind. That's what he reminded me of. He looked like Carpathia standing there.
Yeah, Nicole, now it was not the event was not to commemorate that anniversary of the debate. It was just happened so it fell on the 2-year anniversary of the debate. It was actually a fundraiser for Democrat donors. Okay, Nicole, what are your thoughts on this?
So, they don't do anything by accident, right? It's by happenstance. So they knew very well what day it was, and rolling out old Uncle Joe, rolling him out. He really needs to be in a home somewhere with a blanket over his lap and somebody reading a book or some little kid playing the clarinet to entertain him. His best days are behind him. And the fact that they keep pushing him and pushing him and pushing him is almost as disgusting as them rolling out 90-plus-year-old Jimmy Carter onto a lawn to raise money from Democrats. It is disgusting. They have so many other young up-and-coming socialists that they could use to raise money. Why do they keep rolling? It's like Weekend at Bernie's. This is exactly what this is, with word salad, let's say. It makes me cringe. I've never shared any of his political ideology, ever. He's been in Congress 50-plus years. But this is disgusting. This diminishes him as a human being. It diminishes his legacy. And MD Dems ought to be ashamed to trying to raise money on the back of this man. Shout out to the hecklers who are over it. It again shows that their party is not what they thought it was.
Yeah, I mean, this was all a Democrat function. This was a Democratic donor function. They should have been, this is the former president of the United States, and he's being heckled. I mean, Shelley, what do you think? Do you think this means anything, or what are your point? What's your
what it means is that they're desperate, probably to a degree. They're desperate, but it also acknowledges. To me, it means that they acknowledge the further or the farthest left fields in their party who don't want any tolerance for the old guard, if you will. Mm-hmm. They're not teachable. They don't want to put up with the likes of Joe Biden and the old, if you want to call them blue dog Democrats, or certainly the ones who have a lot of experience in winning and running in elections. They don't want that anymore. So I don't really give a damn. I don't. I just want Joe to go off into the sunset. I don't want him abused. Jill, someone put in the comments, Jill needs to be prosecuted. They are going to pimp him and pump him up with a whole lot of stuff to get him out there. They're going to do that until that man is on his deathbed.
Yeah, it's sad. It's sad. It's very difficult to watch. I mean, it's so cringy. I'm curious to hear what the chat thinks about this. I mean, what are your thoughts, folks? And we have some super chats here, right, Shelley?
Mm-hmm. Yes, we do. Already kicking us off tonight. We have a couple of super chats. Thank you all. I hope you had a great weekend. Thank you, Shantia, for your $5. She says, "Good evening, ladies." Thank you so much out there. Kung Fu CJ, you get the chops tonight. Thank you for your $2. All right, ladies, let's get it. Yes, we have Butterbean. Hi, Butterbean. Thank you for your $35. Elder abuse. Jill should be prosecuted. That's right. Butterbean said that. Exactly. All the rest of you out there, look, it's Monday. I hope you had a great weekend. I did. So we need your super chats. We need you to hit that like, share, and subscribe. We need you to hit that notification bell, and we need you to go to our website, www.metroconservativemedia.com, to get all the information about all the shows that we're going to tell you about throughout the rest of this night.
Absolutely, folks. And if you don't know, this is Poppin' Politics. So as you come in, as Shelley mentioned, hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And if you're tired of the power-hungry commie leftists trying to strip us of our rights and tear apart our country, folks, you're in the right place, because we push back against them. So ladies, let's set it off. And what's the best way to push back against them? With a shirt, right? With some merch.
Absolutely. Merch is the way to go, because you can wear your politics on your chest without having to say a word. Listen, folks, Independence Day is quickly approaching. You got until Friday. It's probably too late to buy this shirt for Independence Day, but you have the entirety of the rest of the year to celebrate America's 250th anniversary. We're not Black. We're not white. We're just Americans, and we're not going to let them divide us. And this shirt says that loud and clear. Democrat, Republican, Independent, Blue Dog Dem, anyone who's an American and proud of the Stars and Stripes can wear the shirt. So get your shirt now. You know, we almost broke the internet a couple of weeks ago, and we'd like to see you guys swing for the fences again. Of course, we have it in a mug. Mugs make a great gift, even for people who are not absolutely political. This is a great A250 gift. We have all kind of merch on our website. There it is. Black, let's see, Black, white, not Black, not white, American, don't let them divide us. And our classic, you guys know how much I love a classic. The classic Poppin' Politics mug. These are great gifts. And if you don't know, this is a great time to buy gifts for your staff members. My staff members are mainly people who are second and third generation Americans, and they don't know why this is a big deal. So I've spent the better part of 3 weeks, broken foot and all, dragging them from pillar to post to show them what makes America great, to show them why I get so excited just at the thought of this nation. And today I wore my A250 shirt. Yes, it was blue. Yes, they dragged me for wearing blue because I refuse generally to do it. But they thought the shirt was cute. Now I got to order 14 shirts because the entire staff is like, are you going to buy us a shirt? The answer is no. I pay you folks good money. Buy your own damn shirts. But what I will do is spring for mugs for the entire office so everybody can have a little bit of Americana, a keepsake from this very special year. Do the same. Go ahead, make a quick purchase. You'll be thankful that you did it, and you will look good while doing it.
Absolutely. Great way to support the channel as well, folks. As you again, come on in here, come on in, hit that like button. It helps to get this video out in front of a wider audience, and we appreciate the support. Let's get into it, folks, because we just saw this weekend how Democrats booed Biden. Okay. Well, a lot of people on the left, a lot of Democrats are not happy about this socialist poll. Now, remember, we covered it last week how in the primaries in New York City, Mondami-backed socialists, pretty much did a clean sweep in many of the elections. Well, now we've had some time. People have been letting it, simmer, and they're not happy. Take a look. This is Jillian Michael saying that the Democrat Party is unrecognizable.
I'm searching my soul as you're talking because I was a lifelong liberal. And what I mean by that, I do think there is a very important distinction to make, is that a classical liberal was not the woke progressives that you're seeing today. There's no universe where Clinton was advocating for open borders, late-term abortions, transing children. Like that party has become unrecognizable to me.
Yeah. Shelley, you've been saying this a lot about the difference between a leftist and a liberal. Can you elaborate on that? And what did you think about what Jillian said?
Yeah.
Jillian
I think what Jillian said is on point. Yeah, there are differences. One of the main differences is that the left progressives, by and large, they want full government control. The classical liberals were basically of the Western Judeo-Christian value system. Now, they may or may not be a particular on every ideology or on every issue. They may or may not agree, but they are certainly for Western civilization and the values that uphold Western civilization. And I think it is so important for us, even more so now, to start making those distinctions. Historically, classical liberals were not the enemies of conservatives, but now we have conflated them. So everybody's a liberal who doesn't agree with a conservative or vice versa, whatever. But we need to start making those distinctions again, because the real crazy people, the real ones that want to overturn America and make America Marxist and communist, those are the progressives, what we call the extremes, which in my never to be humble opinion, they're becoming more normalized on the left, on the Democratic Party side. So that's why I think it's incumbent upon us to make those distinctions. But nevertheless, to Jillian's point, we said last week, we talked about this. You're right, KJ. As much as the Democratic Party does not look like the Democratic Party of old, again, I am not relying on their internal conflicts, okay? Because at the end of the day, those people who won those primaries, they're going to be on the ballot. And once they're on the ballot, they have at least a 50-50 chance of winning. Those are odds that I don't like for us. So we outside need to make sure that we are sticking it to them, if you will, making sure our gain points and points are on point so that we can counter this anti-American narrative.
All right. Nicole, what are your thoughts on these blue dog Democrats? Do you think we, as in the Republicans, can win some of them over to our side?
I don't know if we can win them over, and I don't need them to change their party. I just need them to vote right. They can stay Democrats, and Maryland is full of them. People who were quote unquote born Democrats, people who work for the federal government who need to be Democrats to progress in their career, but haven't ever cast a Democrat ballot. So there are certain situations where I don't care what your party is. I just need you to vote like you have some sense. The problem that we're having here is that when we have these low voter turnouts, we have the fringes making the decisions for the people who live in the middle. And that can't ever happen. It happens every presidential election where you start seeing when they're counting the ballots, you see the left half of the country come in, or the right half of the country come in first, and the left half of the country comes in, and people are like, oh my gosh, it's a landslide. Then the middle part of the country comes in and we level out the playing field. It's the same thing in party politics. Shelley is right here. We have to make distinctions, just like not all Republicans are conservative. Most Republicans are not conservative. Not all libertarians have Republican leanings, but most Republicans have some libertarian leanings. You can't put people into a box and expect them to stay there. What we should do, again, to defeat this socialist, Marxist, communist turn that's coming out of these Democrats, is not to continue to pander to them and go, oh, look, ha, ha, ha. Honey, this is about our nation. This is about being a good American. Party be damned. This is about saving our nation. So we don't have the luxury of pointing our fingers and hoping for the worst. We have to vote. We have to vote Stars and Stripes. We have to vote for America, not, well, let's try something new and see if it'll work. Let's throw it up against the wall and see if it'll work. Nothing works when you throw it up against, maybe spaghetti. Spaghetti might work if you throw it against the wall. Other than that, nothing else works. Vote like you have sense. Vote
Absolutely.
like the nation needs you. We do. But when only 13% vote, this is what you get.
And we talking about the blue dog Democrats. We're here talking about Manchin. So former Senator Manchin was on I think it was CNN, and he was dumbfounded. He could not believe the stats it was Fox, that the reporter told him about 62% of Democrats now prefer socialism over capitalism. He couldn't believe it.
That 47% of the people identify themselves as independents. They have to take, and all of you on your shows talk about independence, because independence is where you win or lose elections.
But 62% of Democrats say they prefer socialism over capitalism.
If they do, then by God, there's not a Democratic Party left. That's crazy. That is crazy.
It's true.
That is absolutely insane.
It's not a Fox poll.
If you want to ask me, well, that's another reason why I'm not registered as a Democrat. I can't put up with that crazy shit. That's nuts. And I've told him that. I said, when you believe that the government should take care of you and you don't want to get up at I was asked by Elizabeth Warren, what's happened to the West Virginia Democrats? Why we lose all the union? I said, you've lost the union workers. You lost the working people of America because they believe the Democratic Party in Washington spends more time, effort, and resources on able-bodied, capable people that don't work or won't work than those that still are working, trying to make a living. That's it in a nutshell. I can't give it to you any plainer than that.
There it is. Nicole, what did he say? He said, well, he couldn't believe it, right?
Listen, he let his West Virginia out real quick. It just slipped on out of him. But, I think he has a valid point. If 62% of your party thinks that socialism is better than capitalism, it's no longer a party. It's no longer an American party. Let's do that. And this is what I mean. Back in the day, we used to, here's a football analogy, just punt between the 40s, right? Everybody do their best, but nobody was trying to ram the ball down your throat. Well, nowadays, it's all or nothing. And this is where we're failing our nation. We cannot have the absolute obliteration of the opposing party. In theory, and you won't find any finer of a Republican who will fight and die for this cause than me, make no mistake. However, I also understand that we need both parties. We need a place for other people to come, because what will happen is what's happening to the Democrats now. When people say, don't you want these Democrats to join the party? No, I don't want the Democrats. I want them to vote Republican. I don't need them to join the party, because the same vitriol, the same hate that they brought to the Democrats, honey, they'll bring it right to us. And we got our own crazies to deal with. Let's do that. Let's just call it a buck. We're going to call balls and strikes here. Both parties have fringe ends. Our fringe doesn't take over our party yet. The Democrat fringe has not only taken over their party, now they're consuming their electorate. They're teaching these new voters that this is the way, that socialism is the way, that free things are good. Free is never free. Somebody's got to pay for it. There's no such thing as free. You get free love from God. That's what you get. That's all you get. Everything else costs. So this is a hard lesson for them to learn. However, we need them to learn it. This is about advancing our nation and not losing our nation to something that we can't undo. So we have to vote. Vote like your life depends on it.
Yeah. Yeah. Shelley, what are your thoughts on what Joe Manchin said there?
Right. I love it. Number one, God bless him. He's still hanging in there, I guess. He's still out here and making the scenes. But the point that I wanted to hone in on is he's talking about the independence. Again, both parties have extremes, but what we fail to forget, even on both sides, I think we fail to forget that independence is where you win, because most people and independents have grown again more than Republicans and Democrats, according to Gallup poll over the last 30 years. Independents have outpaced. So that is where the issues are. That's where we're going to win. Preaching to the choir is fine if you got a choir and you can sing and they want to hear your sermon. That's fine. But in the real world, independence is where most people lie and live their daily lives. You know why? Because by and large, they want to just live their lives. Now, I'm not talking about again doing harm and destruction and breaking laws. That's not what I'm talking about. They want the government to stay out of their lives as much as possible, allow them and let them achieve the American dream as they see fit, and that's it. They want to transmit their wealth, their legacy, their faith down to their families in their communities, and that's it. Remember, all politics is really local. So that's where we need to be.
Yeah. I think one thing that I don't think is mentioned enough is I think that we undersell, or we don't really grasp the amount of people that have locked on to socialism. I think we have an I don't know what you would call like an invisible amount of people that don't realize they actually are advocating for socialism. And then I think we have some Democrats in the, like big Democrats, like in the machine of the Democrat Party, that are cozying up, are softening, I should say, to the idea of socialism. And one of the big reasons why is it's become mainstream. It's been brought mainstream. In the past, when we all went to school, it was a dirty word, really. I mean, you looked at socialism, communism. If you even, it was like the people who kind of talked about it were like the hippies and the like fringe people. But now it's been brought out into the open and people are like, oh, I didn't even think that was a thing. It's a thing. Well, maybe I need to look into it. And this is where we have the problem. And then you couple that with people who are just not educated on how democracies work, how authoritarian socialism, all of it works, and it sounds good, and then they end up voting for it. Okay, and that brings us to the Clintons and the Obamas. So lo and behold, here we have Stephen A. Smith, and he's sounding the alarm because he recently realized that the Clintons and Obamas left office richer than when they started in. Okay, well, how is that? When these people, they're cozying up to socialism and communism all the time. So how are they enriching themselves? Well, take a look here. This is clip 4.
Confess something to y'all. Clinton was a lawyer in Arkansas. Grew up poor, relatively broke. How the hell him and the Clinton Foundation is worth hundreds of millions of dollars beats me. Barack Obama was a community organizer who became the president of the United States. And last time I checked, that salary ain't over $450,000, if I remember correctly. I got to double check that. How the hell you depart from office and you worth over $200 million? It's amazing to me how these politicians go into office and you're sworn to serve the American people. It's called service, but somehow, some way, they always depart exponentially richer than when they arrive.
All right. We've said this a lot. Now, are they stealing? I don't think so. But we could talk about it. But they are capitalizing and gaining from the notoriety that they receive while in office. This is why they're leaving much richer than when they came in. So the bottom line here is many of these people are using their fame and things like that to gain, book deals and celebrity things and all that kind of stuff after they leave office. What are your thoughts there, Nicole?
Now, I'm just going to say allegedly right off the top. There's just everything I'm going to say, just put allegedly right here, right? It is alleged that the Clintons got very wealthy from the Clinton Foundation. with donations and USAID grants and money that were supposed to go to build Haiti into a thriving nation post the earthquake. You guys remember the earthquake that hit Haiti? It was devastating. Took half the island out. You know, all the buildings, the schools, the hospitals, they were digging for weeks trying to find bodies in the rubble. Bill Clinton and his wife and his daughter had that Clinton Foundation, and they got tons of money to go into Haiti to build. There were going to be schools and roads, and Haiti ain't got none of that. But guess who's got a bunch of money? Guess who's got a bunch of money? Now, there are people who buy influence, and that's on both sides of the aisle. And you see people donating money to the Trump library, people who donated money to the Reagan library, people who donated money to Clinton Foundation and to Barack Obama's thing. People try to buy influence. They try to curry favor and have the president come to your child's wedding. You know, you make a $300,000 donation. There are people who do that. But when you look at, when you get past $100 million and there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, that's usually through your foundation. And it's not a book deal, and it's not movie rights, and it's not Netflix, but it's foreign governments who are donating money to you because you still have influence. Listen, being a president is a very small club of living presidents. And no matter how much we despise their politics, Joe Biden is still the most elite of elite men to ever walk the face of this earth, period. It is a very small, very select, ultra elite group. And MD Dems could have rolled out Westmore. They could have rolled out, you know, all the Democrats across the nation. Newsom would have come and all of that. But having Joe Biden, as demented as he is, half dead, other foot on a banana peel, they know they're going to raise money because there are people who are still trying to buy influence, still trying to buy their way in. And this is how they make that money. But the Clintons, when you say not stolen, I don't know about that one, because there's a whole lot of rumor base that says that money that went to Haiti went right into that foundation's pocket. And Haiti is still not having roads and schools and all the things that were promised. So, you know, I can't vouch on Bill and Hillary because, you know, they got some shit with them.
Yeah, you could be right. You're probably right. What are your thoughts there, Shelley?
Yeah. Peter Schweitzer, he is the a conservative investigative journalist. He does whole lots of reports and books on government accountability and particularly corruption. And one of the things he makes is about this idea that politicians, and it doesn't really matter, particularly like you said, Nicole, the presidents, the top of the iceberg, right? Mm-hmm. The influence, and they also do legal corruption is what he calls it. I think legal corruption, meaning that they know the loopholes. Okay. They certainly have people for them that know the loopholes, and they will make those loopholes in their favor. See, this is why a couple weeks ago, we were talking about this, and I was trying to make the distinction between ethical and legal. Not everything they're doing is illegal, but doesn't mean it's ethical. Maybe not. But they are ingratiating themselves and their families, and they're mostly doing it legally. Okay. But it's all about power and influence. And at that particular tip of the iceberg, the presidents, guess what? Party is not even a necessary. It doesn't even matter what party it is. Party does not come into play. All that matters is that you were the president for X amount of time. You have influence. You can carry influence. Even if you're out of office, the Bushes, the Clintons, certainly the Obamas, now Trump, the Bidens, whatever, out of office, in office, you have influence. That's it. That's what they're buying. That's it.
My issue, and sound off in the chat, folks, let us know what you think, is like you mentioned, Biden. My goodness, he was in office for what? He was, when I say office, I mean just in so-called service.
Yeah,
right.
More than 50 years.
50 years.
His whole lifetime. You think here in Maryland, Steny Hoyer, the same thing. My whole lifetime, he's been in Congress.
So they're government. They've been on the government tit. And they haven't created anything. These aren't business owners like President Trump. They're just getting a check. They've been getting a government check all this time. And they've been enriching themselves. Like I said, many of them go in and come out 9 to 10 times richer than when they started out. So this isn't what these jobs were made for. Is it not? They weren't supposed to be something where you can get rich off of them.
No,
That's not
No,
what it was designed for.
that's
But,
not right. That's not the
the
design.
office of the president has changed so much since George
Right.
Washington. It's changed tremendously. George Washington could have been elected president until the day of his death. That's how much Americans loved him. Not because he was this warm and fuzzy character. He was not. No, nay. There's a picture of George that hangs in the West Wing, and it's not the Quaker Oats George that most people see. It's the young blonde bombshell, and you could bounce a quarter off of him riding a big steed with a sword in his hand, and he looks like he's about to give somebody all of the business. You hear me? That's the George that could get elected every single day, because his promise to America was that America was going to be America, right? Imagine the people that he had to defeat. People say, oh, it was just the Native Americans. No, everybody was here. The French were here causing all kinds of problems. If the French still had a relatively decent military, they would still be around the world causing problems. These are people who think that they're everything. Not so much. But we had all kind of issues here in this country. And George was the guy. George was the guy because he didn't mind chopping somebody's head off. He had no problems with it. He had no problems burning your village with your wife in it. He had no problems because the United States was going to succeed. We used to have presidents who loved nothing more than this country. And then we got presidents who loved their party more than they loved their country. Then we had presidents who loved money more than their country. We're at a place now where even regular people love other things other than their country. You can ask 10 kids on the street, which would you rather? Would you rather live in the Dominican Republic or the United States? Which country is better? They would pick half an island, Dominican Republic, over the United States of America. And I don't blame these kids for being ignorant. I blame us for allowing the hippies to teach them.
Right.
When you let the kids run amok with hippies, this is what you get.
And it's not just the teachers. It's also the presidents. Folks, one thing we have to ask ourselves and look into is, did the Obama presidency, did that make people more racist? Did that increase racist or racial bias and looking at things through a racial lens? Okay, because it feels like after his presidency, everything kind of switched, particularly in the Black community. And then who are our leaders? Who are the people that the Black community can look up to? Okay, because most of them are leftists, are almost Marxists. All right, and they create a culture of racial division. Take a look at this next one. This is a Black pastor who is just he's just throwing all kinds of lies and just innuendos against Supreme Court Justice Thomas, okay, and Clarence Thomas. And so we got to unpack this. Take a look here. This is clip 6.
Chocolate people who prefer the way things used to be in Egypt, like that fellow on the Supreme Court who wants to take us back to making bricks with no straw. And even if y'all didn't say amen, I would say it anyway, and I'm gonna say it right now. I don't understand how Black people who got appointed to that bench, where it was obviously both their color and their credentials that moved that president to put them there, would turn around and look at all future generations of Black people and say we ought to go back to making bricks with no straw. Shame on you, Uncle Clarence Thomas, for writing in a concurrent opinion that you want to take us back. Well, I want to tell you what my mama used to say to me: before I be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free. I can't go back. I won't go back to the way things used to be. I don't want segregated water fountains. I don't want water hoses and dogs. No, my people fought too hard for me to get out of where I am. God has been too good. I don't want nothing to do with Egypt.
What is he talking about? What is he talking about? Sitting up there lying in the pulpit. Justice Thomas has never said anything about taking people back into slavery. He certainly didn't want segregated water fountains. I think the man is married to a white woman.
I was going to ask you.
And happily so.
Zero credibility or evidence that Justice Thomas wants Black people under slavery again. This is grotesque. This is bad faith. This is awful. But this is what they do. And all of them do it. All of them do it, Shelley.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what was he talking about specifically? Because I tried to Google and say, when did Clarence Thomas say take us back, and take us back to where? The best that I could come up with was that this guy here, this pastor, was talking about the Dobbs decision. Okay, so in doing that, and because he dissented, that decision was overturned, and the abortion rights went back to the states. That's the only thing I could think he was talking about. But nevertheless, let me tell you what Clarence Thomas really does stand on and support. Number one, he's a constitutionalist originalist. Okay, meaning that the Constitution, he believes it should be interpreted as it was written in the text in the time that it was written. So that's what his basic foundation is. Number two, Clarence Thomas believes in, let me tell you, equal protection under the law. Freedom of speech, that's 1A. Religious liberty, that's 1A. Let's see, the right to keep and bear arms, of course, 2A. Limits on federal government and federal power, 9th and 10th Amendments. Okay, I'm gonna see what else. Due process, 5th Amendment. Protection against unreasonable government searches, that's the 4th Amendment. Go down the list. Clarence Thomas wants that for all people. He is also a staunch supporter of the equal protection under the law precedent, if you will. That's what he supports. So these people are spewing out this stuff. Number one, he's lying. Number two, I don't know what he's conflating. He's not even clear there. But you got the hallelujah choir in the background. Hallelujah, preacher. And they don't know what the hell he's talking about. Okay. That's what they're doing. Because we all been in Black churches. Oh, yeah. You better preach, preacher. Say it again. And then everybody's gonna get to shouting over what? Shouting again over your own demise, because this guy here does not know what he's talking about, and he's lying to you. If anything, he's feeding you crap so that you can stay in Egypt, and he can keep peddling that stuff to you. He's getting you to make the bricks with no straw.
Right. Yeah. Nicole, what are your thoughts on what he said?
Biblically, he's unsound, but we're going to leave that alone. When we talk about when the Israelites were in Egypt, wandering around in the desert, and there's issues and consequences, God still cared for them, right? Mm-hmm. This is his opportunity to talk about how God cared for people. However, maybe tithes were low last month. You never know. Maybe offerings needed a little kick in the pants. The best I could come up with, Shelley, and I didn't think Dobbs because this was after, a little bit further away. I'm thinking he's thinking about the TPS decision, where the T in TPS means temporary, and we're saying tempa-damn-rary. You can't be here forever. I'm sorry you got comfortable. We told you not to. Don't make a home because you only here for a short time, not a long time, right? This is what temporary means. Temporary means not forever, quite literally, not forever. When you think about who Clarence Thomas is a man, who he started out, I'm talking abject poverty in Pinpoint, Georgia. Not kind of broke. I'm talking dusty, musty, rusty broke, and earned his way. Nobody said, hey, little Clarence, come and jump in my pocket and I'm going to do great things for you. He earned his way to the Supreme Court. And now, in this moment, the entire nation is holding its breath on what this man is going to say tomorrow. When that birthright citizenship decision comes, and hopefully it'll come tomorrow and they won't hold it over for another term, but the entire nation will sway on that little poor Black boy's voice. He is the personification of excellence, not Black excellence, not white excellence, American excellence. He personifies the American dream. He was born to a poor station in life, earned his way to one of the most powerful voices in the universe. And you got a problem with him because temporary means temporary? That's the problem. See, this is the problem that we have with the Black church. It's never about God. It's about their interpretation of who God is. If they would stick to the word of God, then there would be not one empty seat in God's house. But because they don't, and they lean into their own understanding, despite the Bible saying, do not lean into your own understanding. And then they get behind the pulpit that used to be a holy place, a place for prophetic witness. It has now become the secondary set of CNN.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's the unofficial member of The View. This is who this man is. And he's preaching his personal politics to God's people. And as much as I'm going to pray for his soul, there's a part of me that's going to say, I don't want to be behind him when it's time to be judged, because he's going to be up there for a long time answering these questions. When you lead God's people astray for your own personal benefit, you're going to have to answer for that, homie. Absolutely. And there's no hiding behind that Bible then.
Right. I 100% agree. I 100%. And just to suggest he secretly pines for slavery, it's just false. It's a lazy attempt to delegitimize conservative, as you mentioned, Shelley, originalism on race. This is what they're doing. And instead of them actually looking into this man's background, his history, I believe he was raised in a single parent home. I believe
his grandparents wound up caring for him and his brother.
Exactly. In such poverty. I mean, his story should be one that is told in elementary on up to high school. As just someone who, not just as a Black American, but just someone who has just really picked himself up and worked hard and has gotten to the highest office in the country, in law. It's terrible. It's terrible. And it's just lies. This is what really is upsetting. The way these people lie, it's terrible. It's terrible. So we got to continue to call it out. This is what we do on here, folks. We dig into these lies that the leftists tell, and then we talk about it and we call it out. All right. Yeah. We have some super chatters here, right?
Yep. We have some super chatters here. I think we have some. Let's see who we have. Producers. All right, looks like we have Kung Fu CJ here. Thank you for your $5, Kung Fu CJ. He says Trump lost $1 billion of his net worth after his first term. That's right, and I think he's getting it back. So, but yeah, you're right. Also, we had thank you for your super chat, Kung Fu, and we have Dion. Hi, Dion. Thank you. Dion has been a member for 1 month. He says, "Tell him, Shelley." Okay, thank you. Yeah, look. In the words of the Black people in that church, preach, preacher, but he's lying. He's lying.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. But it all comes back. Remember, it stems from Obama. And so this is the question we want to ask you guys. Did Obama cause Black people to become more racist? Take a look at this next clip. This is clip 10.
It is so hard for me to sit here and realize how racist I was actually raising my children to be. I thank God that this existential election happened this past year to force me to do some research on my own. And it's like, when you think about it, all the pain, the harm physically and mentally and financially that was done to me, it wasn't done by white people. It was done by people that look like me, that talk like me, that live around me in the same neighborhood as me. All of the harm, physical harm, and now even more harm that's being done to me now simply because I said I'm a MAGA Republican. The harm that's being done to me is not being done by white people unless they're liberal white and they just got out of their body and they feel comfortable doing so.
Wow. So let's get into this. As the first Black president, Obama often framed issues through the lens of race. He talked a lot about historical discrimination and his own personal identity. All right. And supporters saw this as necessary acknowledgement of disparities in leadership in healing divides. So I want to ask you ladies your opinion on this, because I just want to say very quickly, I know some people, older people, that I grew up with that never talked about race and looked at everything through the lens of racism, and even this victim mentality, this oppression versus oppressor. They never looked at life like that. And now that's all they talk about. What are your thoughts, Shelley?
Let me say, this is a good question. I wouldn't say that Obama made Black people more racist. I think what Obama did was he legitimized, gave credence and gave an underpinning, if you will, to many of them who already had them. And by doing that, because he was a public figure, the first Black president, of course. So to them, it said, oh, well, if Obama is saying these things, then we can say it. And we're Black and we can say it. So I don't know. I wouldn't know about the qualifier more. I don't know. But I do think he legitimized and gave them, quote unquote, permission to be, to spew their racial animus all over the place and almost codify it, if you will, almost give it its own place on the mantle to be seen and noted by everyone. That's what I think he did. And he made it look good. He made it sound smooth. So I think that's what he did. That's the part that he did in that sense. That's what I think he did.
Your thoughts on that, Nicole?
I think he did normalize it, because what you have that's being said openly and publicly and written in books now and talked about on 24/7 news channels is what you only used to hear in drunken dinner parties when the third bottle of wine is open and people are just talking trash. Girl, if I had my way, there wouldn't be a man on this planet, blah, 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 drinking your wine and acting up. And it never made it beyond that conversation. But something that he did was he legitimized, as Shelley said, alternative points of view. Mm-hmm. And these alternative points of view, once you open up that Pandora's box, there's no way to get the genie back in. You can't get the toothpaste back in the tube. Once it's out, it's just a mess. And that's where we find ourselves now, where you find people saying, the country wasn't founded in 1776. It was founded in 1619. Based on what? Well, because I say so, and I'm Black, and you better listen to me. And God forbid you cut a Black woman off. I'm speaking. Do you not see me? I'm a Black woman with a microphone. Shut your mouth until I make my point. Now, that's some stuff that we used to talk about at dinner parties when people was feeling a little froggy, a little loose, but we would never go against the rules of decorum. So what happened, I think, under that particular administration, the rules of decorum changed. Mm-hmm. And where there is no leadership, where there's a power vacuum, chaos will ensue. That vacuum is going to get filled in. So during that vacuum time, all of our, I like to call them wino politicos, came out and said, well, I've always believed this and I've always believed that. And that leads to what we have now in the Democrat Party, because all of this socialism, communism, foolishness used to be their drunken dinner parties. White folk, Black folks and white folk have two different type of drunken dinner parties. Right. Just culturally, I want y'all to know that. But this is like, if I had my way, rent would be frozen and everybody could ride the bus for free and all their food would be free. And wouldn't it be a great world? No, it would not be a good world, because somebody's got to pay for this shit. Someone has to pay. But if you're on your third bottle of wine and you're just talking to your friends and it's hot in that little tiny apartment, sure, you can have pie in the sky, but pie in the sky makes poor policy. Absolutely makes poor policy. And this is what we're finding now. The fringe lunatics, the politico winos, are now running political parties. And this is why the world is upside down. We have to write it again.
Right. And one thing that you said that makes very good sense, and I agree with both of you, is he centered racial grievances as the central to America's challenges. So instead of, back in the day where, because again, we understand that racism is real and it does occur. And, people all, our older generation, younger, we all acknowledge that in our lives. Okay. But now we have gotten to a situation or an era where everything is framed on the basis of racism. Anything, solving problems like healthcare, education, jobs, you gotta understand there's some underlying racial narrative, some underlying racism around every corner. Whereas we used to say, okay, this happened, this is proof that this person discriminated against me based off of my race. Now it's baked in the cake. This is what they want us to believe. And so everything after Obama that was bad, okay, that was good, he said it was based off of race.
Right.
All right. Remember that Henry Louis Gates arrest?
Yes.
Remember that?
Yes.
For you guys who don't know, Henry Louis Gates, he's a black Harvard professor, and he was arrested at his home by a white Cambridge police officer. All right. Well, President Obama was the president at that time, and he made this whole thing. He said it was about race. He said it was racial profiling, and all this type of stuff. There was never any evidence of that. It was a neighbor in the community, a white female neighbor, saw two black guys. One of them was Gates, one was his driver, and they were attempting to force his door open. Okay. He had just come back from a long trip in China. All right. He and his driver. And when they got there, they found his front door was jammed. So you have somebody happened to be white looking at them, these two guys trying to bust the door down, and she called the police. Police came, and they said, "Hey, what are you doing?" Now, what did they do? Instead of him acting like he had some sense, he got belligerent with them, with the police officers.
No good deed goes unpunished.
Yeah. You know what? I wish we would have had body cams back then. My gosh, that would have made a great body cam segment for our True Crime podcast.
Yeah.
No good deed goes unpunished. And again, what Obama did was he normalized and legitimized that kind of thinking. Before Obama, by and large, I mean, of course, there's some opposition or some critics, but by and large, Black people as a group, if you will, as a community, as a culture, we were on a different trajectory, a positive trajectory as far as social and race relations, right? Yes, like you said, KJ, racism has been here. It's always going to be here in some way, shape, or form. But that was not the main focus of most Black people. It's reversed after Obama or since Obama, and Black people think that is the bane, that's the be all and end all. It starts with race and ends with race. Now, when you have the bigotry of low expectations, what I think, again, Obama has made that the goal. It's not even the floor. That's the ceiling. The bigotry is the ceiling, and everything needs to be filtered through that lens. So you're right. That Henry Louis Gates, his white neighbor, was looking out for him. Now, mind you, I don't know if you were going to say this, Kate. Mind you, this house, from what I understand, was a fabulous piece of property, right? Up like, I don't know, hundreds of thousands dollars, whatever, maybe even in the millions as far as value.
Cambridge is beautiful. It was in Cambridge.
Right, his house. I'm just right, and I forget how many square feet, but I mean, I think it was at least like 5,000 or more square feet. So his white neighbor was looking out for him and his property, knowing that he had gone out of town. Okay, so listen, I mean, again, no good deed goes unpunished.
That neighbor is damned if she did and damned if she didn't, right? If she had not called the police and someone broke into his home, he would have been going around with the police going, "Did you see anything?" And she's like, "Well, I saw two Black guys, but I didn't want to be, racial, so I didn't call," right? She would have been on the hook for that. How dare she let people break into a Black man's home? So she sees two guys breaking into a Black man's home, and she calls the police, and now she's a racist because she called the police on the two Black guys. You can't win when you lead with race. Everybody has prejudices and biases. Every single body. It is the human nature. It is what you do with those prejudices and biases that make the difference. Do you lead with it? No, of course not. Civilized people do not. There are lots of people from nations that I don't admire. And again, I do immigration physicals and I practice. There are some nations where women are less than dogs, and they don't even like dogs. And they come to the United States and they bring that culture with, you can't be in charge because you're a woman. And then you got the nerve to be Black on top of it. And you only speak one language and you only speak English. So you're an uneducated Black woman. How dare you tell me what I can have and what I can't have? This is their culture. I don't like them. But when I meet them, I don't lead with, "I do not like this dude." I give every single one of them the opportunity to show me their bias, show me their prejudice, or show me their kindness in their heart. I don't want to be one of those people who say, the common thing to say is now, like, I match energy. I don't. I lead. I show them kindness first. But please believe me, if they show me their booty cheeks, I'm quick to kick them in them. I don't have it to do. Welcome to the United States of America. We do it different here, family. We don't act like that here. We do not.
I agree. I agree. And again, and not only do we see that again, they push this whole racial narrative, but then they do a lot of lies. Okay.
Mhm.
You brought it up before, Shelley, Ferguson and Michael Brown. All right. Obama was part of that. So following the shooting and unrest, what did we do? Obama spoke of the deep distrust between law enforcement and communities of color rooted in the legacy of racial discrimination. These are quotes. All right. He referenced DOJ findings on bias in Ferguson, policing as validation that complaints were not fabricated. I mean, the list goes on, and none of this, the whole narrative surrounding Michael Brown was not true. All right. It was not even true.
Completely
But that's never been corrected, really. I mean, people still will to this day will quote the hands up, don't shoot, and they shot him, an unarmed man with his hands up.
Yeah.
Well, don't let the truth be, an indicator of how you should behave. When things become larger than the truth, and that happens so much lately. And again, I blame that the world is getting smaller. The internet has made the world a much smaller place, and people are groupthink people. It's fascinating to watch very educated people fall down a rabbit hole because they refuse to make 4 or 5 other clicks to find out what's true and what's not true. They just kind of latch on to it. The perfect example is this Carmelo Anthony case. There were people who DM'd me after Pop who were like, how dare you? How dare you? He was a 3.7 student and Austin Metcalf beat his father up and broke his collarbone. And I'm like, bruh, here's the video, and sent them the video. Oh, well, I didn't see that. Well, what I heard, that video is wrong. That's AI. I said, it is not AI. Because if it was AI, it wouldn't be grainy and it would not be hard to see. But what we do know is this was something that didn't have to happen. It did happen. And now somebody's paying the price for a decision that they made. As a Black man, you got to be okay with that. You have to be okay with the level of accountability. We cannot continue to raise this generation of delicate boys who have men bodies and women intellect. We cannot continue to do that.
Absolutely not. And folks, I'm not sure if you guys have seen, but we have another channel here, The Right Verdict, and where we talk about these cases. We talk about the legal analysis on it. We talk about the culture. And so definitely check us out every Thursday at 10 p.m. The Right Verdict. You can find here on YouTube at The Right Verdict. This week, we have a special guest, attorney Dennis Sperling, I believe. Is that Dennis Sperling?
Yes. He's scheduled to come on this Thursday.
Amazing. Thursday. Yes, indeed.
Oh,
you
my
do
gosh.
not want to miss the show this Thursday. We got a great show lined up for you. All right. We have some super chats.
We have some super chats. Yes, we do. We have some supers here. All right. Kung Fu CJ, thank you. You're back again. You get some more chops there. Thank you for your $5. Trump lost $1 billion of his net worth after his first term. Yeah, we mentioned that one. Thank you again for that. All right, Dion, thank you. Tell him, Shelly. All right, come on, producers. Who's this? Rupert. Thank you, Rupert, for your $2. Thank you for stopping by tonight.
Hey, ladies, this is Rupert's first live show.
Oh, Rupert.
Welcome to the family, Rupert. Welcome.
All right, Rupert. All right, we have Laura. Hi, Laura. Thank you for stopping by tonight. Big Mike is a huge racist.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. And this is a Skype or SKVP. Thank you for your $10. Love you, ladies. Always speak the truth. Happy 4th and 250th. Thank you for that. Right back at you. All right, everybody out there, we have over 300 people watching right now. You need to get those likes, shares, and subscribes up. You need to hit that notification bell and go to our website, www.metroconservativemedia.com. Look at all the information for our shows. We have Just the Guys. Of course, you have Poppin' Politics, The Right Verdict, as KJ just mentioned, and Christian Conservative with KJ and Michelle on Thursdays and Sundays. And one last thing from me, Don't forget, we have a Discord channel. Get your merchandise. I know it's the 4th, but get your merchandise. Look, guys, our merchandise has been flying off the shelves. Okay.
Yes.
Oh, right. I didn't even realize this weekend is 4th of July.
It is.
Right.
That's why I
Get
said
your
you're not going to get your
merchandise.
shirt in time. Yeah, but
If you got some in the mail, take a picture on the 4th of you wearing your gear, put it in the Discord, and we will call you out. Well, not call you out. We will shout you out on this show. But get your merchandise. It's been flying off the shelf. I'm telling you, I'm not exaggerating. It has been flying. Get your merchandise. We have all kinds of merchandise from the 250th shirts and any other type that we have. Our classic styles, classic colors. Get your merchandise. It is hot.
Listen, this
All
is
right.
the time.
And here
because
it is.
we're
We got a video.
Oh, we got a video.
Have that available? We may not. Okay.
So this is the time to get your A250 stuff, right? And the reason is,
what's up, everybody? This is Poppin' Politics. Get your merch. Are you a Poppin' Politics fan? Are you unapologetically American? Or not black, not white American? We got it all for you right here. Get your merch.
get the classic shirt. Classic. Goes with everything, comes in a variety of colors. Smart, edgy, conservative, like us, like you. This is a great way to support the channel. Click the merch button.
There is no shame in being an American. Get your shirt today and be unapologetic about it. Get your shirt, wear it, and be a proud American.
You can get it all in t-shirts and hoodies. You can get it in stickers, on bags. You can get it all on our website, metroconservativemedia.com, or our YouTube page, Pop and Politics, and tag over to store. You can get your merch and show you're proud to be an American and support Pop and Politics. All right. Yes, indeed. All right, folks. So moving right along, we still got more stuff to bring to you guys tonight. All right. So as Nicole already said, tomorrow is going to be a big day for the Supreme Court. All right. But before we get into what's coming tomorrow, there was a landmark decision that came down today and got a lot of people hot and bothered. So this is the Supreme Court has upheld the decision to allow mail-in ballots to be counted if they arrive after election day. This is clip 7. Take a look. I'm doing what I'm doing.
Breaking news, U.S. Supreme Court, a decision is now in on a challenge led by Republicans to late arriving ballots in elections. Shannon Bream has the ruling. She's got the news and the headline now from the U.S. Supreme Court. Shannon.
All right, guys, this is not a win for Republicans who were challenging this. Mississippi has a state law which allows ballots to be counted, mail-in ballots after Election Day. If they come in, they're postmarked and meet the state requirements. But it is a 5-4 loss for Republicans, and an interesting cobbling together of who wrote on this. Justice Barrett wrote the opinion. Justice Roberts joined her along with Justices Sotomayor, Kagan, and Jackson. So those 5 stuck together on this. The dissent comes from Justice Alito. Thomas Gorsuch and Kavanaugh join him. And essentially what the majority said is that these federal statutes setting Election Day don't prescribe, or they don't stand in conflict with states that want to say, okay, we have a procedure to count ballots after Election Day. Justice Alito, writing for the dissent, says today's decision is inconsistent with the terms of the Election Day statutes, contemporary election law principles, 2 centuries of historical practice, and the case law on the question presented. So if you're a state out there that counts ballots after Election Day based on your state law, that state law will stand.
All right. So let's talk about this, ladies. This all stemmed from a case, I believe, in Mississippi.
Right.
And so they were the case that brought it up to the Supreme Court. The Mississippi law allows election officials to count mail-in absentee ballots that are postmarked by Election Day and received up to 5 business days later. Okay, so about 30 states have similar grace periods. But, a lot of people on the right are upset about this because I'm one that hates election month, week. I think it should just be an election day. But did the court rule right on this, Nicole?
Do I disagree with the ruling, and I definitely agree with what Alito and Thomas had to say, is that it's election day, not election season, right? And the pushback from the other justices is if it's postmarked for election day, before election day, by election day, right? 11:59 on whatever Tuesday that is, and it's valid, it should be counted. Because in their mind, these mail-in ballots are from soldiers who are overseas, people who are handicapped and paralyzed. I don't think they really considered how prolific mail-in voting is for everyday people who are just choosing to mail-in vote versus showing their butt up to the poll. I agree that election day should be a day. There should not be election season. We should not have people having batches of ballots that may or may not be counted on time to sway an election one way or the other. At the end of the night on election day, there should be clear defined winners and clear defined people who lost the contest. By doing it this way, we're giving in to states like California, who 2, 3, 4 weeks later, you're still good guessing because they just found another batch of mail-in ballots. It puts a lot of pressure on a system that we know doesn't work well, USPS. We've been trying to privatize them bums for a very, very long time. And I don't mean the workers. I'm talking about the people who write their policy, who say, oh, you found something on the floor. Everything needs to be postmarked by a certain date. We're going to postmark them for tonight, even if it's already past midnight. There are so many moving variables to this ruling that it's going to make it easier for people to game the system. This is why we need the Save America Act. We have to have the Save America Act passed in order to protect our elections. I think at this point, that's the only bullet we have left in the gun.
Yeah. Shelley, what are your thoughts here? Do you agree with the decision or you agree with the dissent?
Personally, no, I don't agree with it personally. But when I've read through the dissent or the opinion, I could see how Coney Barrett was, that deciding vote.
Well, she's getting hell today.
She is getting hell. I can see how she came to the conclusion that basically this was not there was Mississippi, the states really, they get to mandate or they get to manage their elections, their process, and it did not violate any of the United States code. So I could see how she came to that decision. I do think it was, again, this is my personal part. I think it was sort of an easy escape, if you will, so that she wouldn't be caught one way or the other. She kind of took that
middle road.
Easy middle road. That's what I think. But what the conclusion I came to, not just for the SAVE Act to be passed, of course, but one of the things that I've been thinking about here lately is what our side needs to do. We need to start supporting and advocating mail-in ballots. That's what we need to do. Because we are losing out, if you will, and I mean literally, but we're losing out on that I guess that population, that contingent that are no longer planning on going to the polls. We need to start advocating that because mail-in ballots is not illegal. We may have problems with it. Of course we know it allows for cheating, if you will. We do know that. So what do we need to do? We need to join them. It's not illegal, and quote unquote people say they're not cheating. Okay. So then our side needs to start pushing mail-in ballots and in-person voting, not one or the other, but we need to start doing that. Stop downplaying mail-in ballots and join in, because this is where we need to start doing. This is, I think, what we need to start doing.
Yeah. So you all know I despise mail-in ballots. I despise the long election season. I hate it. It drives me crazy. All right. But I will say, I think they made the right decision here as far as a legal decision. And let me tell you why. So the Supreme Court's job is not to make law. When I saw this come down, the first person I thought about was you, Shelley, because this is a congressional decision. Our Congress needs to pass the correct laws to fix this. Another thing we know, the framers in the Constitution made it this way, where elections are state by state. It's not supposed to be a federal procedure. And it's done that way to stop fraud, because if you make it, one way, a lot of times you can make fraud, but because we have different states have their own separate procedures, it's hard. It's really difficult to rig it, at least a lot. But the Supreme Court, their job is not to make law. It's not to rewrite law or act like a political super legislature. That's what the left wants. Mm-hmm. They must interpret the current law on the books. Mm-hmm. All right. And so this is why we have this issue right now, because we've had a defunct Congress. They won't do their jobs. They're trying to pass this over to the Supreme Court. And that's not their job. Their job is to interpret what we have on the books. All right. And make sure it aligns with the Constitution. All right. And this came down to the historical practice. We got 30 states have basically used similar postmark grace period rules. Okay. So, this is what they're doing. They're doing state by state. That state needs to vote in somebody that's going to make it election day, bring it back to election day.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Okay. And we're going to get to the landmark case from tomorrow. Before we do, I know we have some super chats.
Let's see. Yes. Who do we have here, producers? We have the Scrapping Beauty. Hi, Scrapping Beauty. Thank you for your $5. Biden is a stain on America that will take many washes to correct. He was selfish for 40 years plus. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Josh. Hi, Josh. Thank you for Josh. Happy Monday, Pop fam. Thank you, Josh, for stopping by tonight.
Christy Hardy.
Thank you for $100.
Thank you.
They need to get back to class and dignity in leadership. We pay them to make policy and be good leaders, not go on every news and talk show to attack each other endlessly, accusing the other side of having terrible ideas but offering zero solutions. Thank you for that. Yeah, we do. KJ, you're right. You're right. This is a congressional legislator and it's a state's right. Those states have not done anything illegal by using and advocating mail-in ballots. Unfortunately, the Democrats have monopolized it, if you will, and they figured out a way that, hey, that coin pretty much goes into their favor. This is why the solution that I'm advocating, again, in addition to the SAVE Act, Nicole, Republicans need to start advocating mail-in ballots. And stop putting it down. We need to start saying, if you're not going to go to the polls, mail in your ballot. Go early voting. I know most of us don't like that. We like to go on one day, but here's where we are. This is where we are in 2026. Let's use the technology, the process, the strategy to our advantage.
Listen, I'm going to take it a step further. Not only do we need to embrace mail-in ballots, we also need to embrace ballot harvesting. Now, y'all know I'm a capital R. I'm a capital R with bold and maybe some italics. People, when they hear me say this, it gets the hair on their back of their neck stood up. But if you have low propensity voters who have a mail-in ballot at their house, likely stuck on the refrigerator or in a desk drawer somewhere, and your candidate needs some votes, go knock on that door. Hey, KJ, how are you? It's me, Nicole Bennett from GGE Enterprises. And let me tell you something. I know you got a ballot you haven't sent back. Oh, it doesn't matter. I can take it to the polling place for you. Go ahead and mark your ballot. Happy to take it for you. You can track it. Scan this QR code and you'll see when I drop it off and when they receive it. Let's make it easy for you to vote. If you can't get out, your kids are sick, your dog ate your homework, whatever it is, happy to take it for you. In fact, do you know anybody else who wants me to take their ballot? I'll take them all to the polling place for you. Now, to Republican ears, to conservative ears, that sounds like foolishness. Oh my God, she's going to abscond with the ballot. Can I tell you, Democrats have been doing this for decades. And this is how they make calls and say, hey, I got 250,000 ballots in my trunk. Don't worry about it. We're going to win this election. We have got to stop playing kickball when they're playing professional baseball. We have got
the shit's chess. It ain't checkers.
Exactly. That is precisely what it is.
You know what else is going to happen?
The game.
The day or the election when mail-in ballots come in overwhelmingly and pushes the Republican ahead, that's going to be the day that the Democrats are going to say, we're going to stop it. Some cheating is going on. Watch. That's going to be the day.
Listen, they were crying when Trump won. You didn't watch all that election day coverage?
Yeah.
They were crying the blues. Oh, we have to get rid of the Electoral College. oh, we're just going to go by the popular vote. Oh God, he won the popular vote. Now we have to get rid of the popular vote. We got to come up with another idea. We'll do ranked choice voting across the nation. When people lose, some people don't know how to take an L. You take your L, you go back to the drawing board, you find a better candidate, you make a better platform. You don't change the game to fit your candidates. You change the candidate to fit your base. That's how that's supposed to work. But that's not what we're seeing lately. And people say this all the time. Well, just because they cheat doesn't mean you need to. But if cheating is the law of the land, if being stank is the law of the land, honey, we want to win. We want to make sure that this nation continues to be this nation. We got to do what we got to do.
Well, tomorrow is the day, folks. Tomorrow is the day. The Supreme Court is expected to release final rulings tomorrow. That and one of the biggest is on President Trump's birthright citizenship executive order. All right, what are they going to say? How are they going to rule? Take a look at this.
You ask most Americans, do you believe that an illegal alien who traverses across South America, passes through multiple countries, shows up at our southern border, crosses over, and has a child, if that child should be an American citizen just like anybody else in our country? I think most people would say no. If you ask them, do you believe that a Chinese national who flies into the United States for the sole purpose of having a child, if that child should be an American citizen, most people would say no. And I hope that the Supreme Court recognizes that. You know, for most of American history, we've always recognized that there are certain people who don't fall under that category of citizens. For instance, the children of an invading army, the children of a Native American tribe that maintains tribal relationships. The children of diplomats, for instance, have not been considered American citizens or have not been given American citizenship simply because they're born here. And I think that the same logic applies to the children of illegal aliens who never should have been in our country to begin with.
All right. All right. Of course, that was Representative Brandon Gill. And as you can see, he's laying out the case on why children of illegals should not have birthright citizenship. All right. This is one point of view, one perspective that many of us conservatives agree with. OK, but there is another side to this, folks. Take a look at this next clip. A Harvard law professor is making the case for birthright citizenship. All right. This is clip 9.
Present in birthright citizenship. What is birthright citizenship anyway? Hi, I'm Kenneth Mack. I'm the Lawrence D. Beale Professor of Law and Affiliate Professor of History at Harvard University. Well, birthright citizenship is a principle that anyone who's born within the territorial bounds of the United States is a citizen upon birth. So in the early years of the United States, people came here, people left. There were a lot of people called sojourners. They would come for work and then they might go back to France or England or Germany. But if there were children born here, those children were citizens of the United States back to the founding, with a few exceptions. Diplomats, for instance, France sends its minister to the United States. The minister has children. Those children are citizens of France. There was a lot of debate about whether Native Americans were American citizens, and there was a lot of debate about free African Americans, not those who were enslaved, but free African Americans had the same rights as white people.
All right, that is not the right clip. But that's all right. Ladies, what are your thoughts here? I'll start off with you, Nicole. What do you think how do you think the court is going to go on this?
I think it's going to break along ideological lines. And this is the reason why I say that. Last week on Thursday, there was a tiff. It was probably the biggest tiff in SCOTUS recent memory. And I know most people didn't even pay attention to it. But Justice Sotomayor took the liberty to read from her 35-page dissent about TPS. Now, that's not unheard of. Sometimes they get a bee in their bonnet and they just start reading their dissent so people feel their emotion. But she got a little spicy with it. I mean, she put a little stink on the back of it. And then Alito, generally, after someone reads their dissent, it's just quiet and they move on to the next thing. He took it upon himself to remind her that this is not new law. Temporary means temporary. And DHS has always had that power. This is about the separation of the three forms of government here in the United States. It has nothing to do with Trump himself. This is everything about how power works. She gave him a dirty look. He kind of gave her a toss over his head. And SCOTUS rules, that's a damn knockout drag out. Somebody got their wig pulled the way that they act, the decorum that happens in that place. I think that wasn't an argument about the temporary protective status. I think that was about a bigger argument because although they're reading the rulings, they've already had the argument. They've already talked to one another, and everybody has cast their vote of what they're going to say. 5 for people who agree, 4 for people who dissent. However that's going to work. They've already had those arguments. And I think Sotomayor tipped her hand a little bit. I think she tipped her hand, and I think it's going to be her, Kagan, and Brown Jackson who are going to be dissenting. And I think the more conservative justices are going to lean into, this was the rule in the early 1800s when we needed more population, when we needed to figure out what we were going to do with these people that were enslaved, this great sin that stained our nation. How do we make this right? I don't think that they see that carrying over, especially when you talk about the people who are subject to the United States. Because if you hold a foreign passport, you're not a citizen. You're a citizen of that nation that you hold that passport for. So if you come here from Guatemala and you got a Guatemala passport and you live in the United States, it does not make you an American. You are Guatemalan, right? That's what the passport says. You are a citizen. When you open it up, it's citizen of Guatemala. So being here does not necessarily make you a citizen of the United States. Now, being born here to 2 people who are illegal, that's a whole horse of a different color. But if you were staying a diplomat, 2 diplomats get together, have a child, it's not an American, it's whatever nation they hold passports for. And I think that's going to be a very heartbreaking decision for a lot of people.
Well, the core of the debate is the citizenship clause of the 14th Amendment. So it was ratified in 1868. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. All right. So we know this overturned the Dred Scott decision, which denied citizenship to Black Americans. All right. So this is the key. The 14th Amendment is the key to all of this. Shelley, what do you think is going to happen? Do you think this is going to be overturned? What do you think?
I'm going to say a 5-4 decision. And I think one of the primary person that I'm concerned about who can swing it either way is going to be Roberts. Roberts is sort of what I guess I call him, that maybe others have too. I call him sort of this maverick of the Supreme Court. He's more focused on the image of the court, more so than the other justices are. He's focused on the image and how the court has historically been viewed and the things that they have historically stood on. So I'm just a little concerned. I know some of the pundits or the political talking heads are saying it's probably not going to go in our favor or what we want. That's what they're saying. But of course, they've been wrong before too. So I'm trying to just stay. But that's what I think. I think it's going to be a 5-4 decision. But I'm mostly concerned about Roberts.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think it's going to pass either. And I think it's not going to pass based off of the same reason I said before. Okay, so this is being brought up because of Trump's executive order. The executive order sought to reinterpret or limit citizenship for children born to parents without permanent legal immigration status. So it triggered a nationwide class action litigation, and the Supreme Court are hearing arguments in regards to this. Okay. But I think they're going to push it back to Congress and say, look, y'all, you need to either do a constitutional amendment or change the law. I think they're going to push it back to that. I don't think they're going to want to wade into this because it's based off of an executive order. And once again, they are not here to make law. They are not here to change law. They're here to interpret the law that is here. And so I believe that, and again, I agree with the conservative justices and what you all said. I don't agree with this birthright citizenship, but I think that they're going to punt it back to Congress to do what they're supposed to do. Legislature, I should say.
Yeah. I don't. Here's what we know for sure: Congress ain't going to touch it because everybody likes staying in their seat, right? Yeah. Everybody likes the perks and all the things that come with. But I think this is a very interesting legal question, and taking a look at how they've ruled on all of the immigration rules thus far, right? Because nobody in a million years thought that they would make temporary mean temporary. People were saying, no, temporary means temporary. It does not mean forever, and it doesn't mean safe to an American standard. Haiti, God bless that nation, is never going to be safe to an American standard. It's never going to be America. Maybe in a millennia, possibly, but it's never going to be America. When I say that there are other nations, Syria being another one, we have sent other protected people home. When temporary is over, you have to go. And I think that was the crux of the argument. It wasn't necessarily about immigration. It was about narrowly interpreting the law. For this birthright citizenship, it's not so much the entire amendment, it's the part that says subject to the jurisdiction thereof.
And that's the part is actually, I do think that I agree with you, KJ, the Congress needs to have passed this this long time ago. But I do think this is the auspices of the Supreme Court, just that phrase, because it's in the Constitution. It's in the original, subject to the jurisdiction thereof. So I think the Supreme Court does have the wherewithal, if you will, the right, maybe the responsibility to make a ruling on that constitutional original phrase and meaning. So I think that may be the part that may go 50-50. I understand what you're saying. Congress is derelict, if you will, lazy. But I do think that that particular phrase does give the Supreme Court the right to make a decision without making law.
Right. So that's the thing. It would not be, a complete reimagining, as Democrats like to say, but it would be clarification of what that means, because the lawsuit isn't because Trump said, if you're born to foreign parents, it's that particular section, subject to the jurisdiction thereof. What does that mean? And the Supreme Court can interpret what that means by today's standards, not what it meant back then, but what it means now. If you're born to two people who hold foreign passports, they are not subject to the jurisdiction thereof. They are not Americans. They are not subject to our laws. They are not subject to our rules. But here's this baby born on our soil. Does that make that baby subject to our rules? Now, if that's the case, and if they do say that, diplomats are in for a world of trouble.
Yeah, well, that's the thing where he said all persons born in the United States. That's that's sweeping. And then, and like you mentioned, they need to interpret it because the subject to the jurisdiction thereof, some are saying simply means subject to the U.S. law and authority while physically present here. Then we have the precedent. I mean, you had the Wong Kim Ark case, which that established strong, ties here. The lower courts and decades of practice applied citizenship to children of undocumented parents. Okay, so it sort of overturned or narrowed what we settled expectations for millions.
Right.
So
that's where that's where our Congress has been again derelict over decades with this immigration. This is how the immigration ties in, of course, where Congress again, both administrations over decades have allowed our borders to be so porous and come and go, have as many children here, go where this is where the law and the legislature, the Congress is supposed to come in. But again, the Supreme Court, I think I don't know if they're going to, but I think they do have the auspices to interpret that phrase.
All right. Well, folks, sound off in the chat. Let us know what you think is going to happen tomorrow. This is going to be a landmark decision. There's going to be uproars on both sides. This could change this would change everything here in the United States.
Yes.
Either way, no matter what they decide, the nation is changed forever. And again, this is where we go back to that preacher who preaches to maybe 1,000 people a Sunday. The world is waiting with bated breath on Clarence Thomas and these other justices making this decision with bated breath. And thank God it hasn't leaked. Thank God, like Dobbs, it has not leaked. But whatever the decision is, as a citizen of this great nation, I know that there has to be more value to my citizenship than two foreign-born people coming here and having a baby. One of the things that DHS has already done is all of these anchor baby businesses, literally businesses that have what they call anchor baby tourism, where you're 8 months pregnant, you fly in just to have a quote unquote American baby. And they don't just claim American citizenship, they claim dual citizenship. So whatever nation their parents are from, plus the United States, and then they fly back home. So if home gets ticky-tacky, the kid comes to the United States, he's a citizen. So you know what that means? We call this chain migration. Now he's here. He's a minor. Where's his parents? He's going to need some parents. When the parents come, you might as well bring the grandparents. The grandparents, you can bring the nephews, nieces, aunts, and cousins. And before you know it, you live in Dearborn.
Yeah. Wow. All right, we have a couple of super chatters here. All right, we have Bernie. Hi, Bernie. Thank you for your $10. Right now, the Dems can't be trusted and will do anything to gain power. Absolutely. Yep. Henry, thank you, Henry, for stopping by tonight. Love your insight, ladies. Waiting on Congress to do something. Hope none of you are holding your breath. Absolutely. Yeah, you're right. And then we have Sonia. Thank you, Sonia. Hi, where have you been? Thank you for your $5. Persons wearing hijabs giving birth may be taking over birthright citizenship rights to rid Western civilization. Yeah, we've been talking about that. Thank you again, Sonia, for coming back again. Look at Trump's 14,399 executive order put in on 3/31/2026 regarding the mail-in votes. He controls all of government agencies. He knew they would reject. His wins. Okay. Thank you for all. Hey, and guess what, you guys? Don't forget to hit that like, share, and subscribe, that notification bell. But we haven't mentioned in a couple of days. I'm so excited about this still. Remember, you can buy us is it a lipstick, lady? Is that what we get? We get a lipstick. We were one of the top 10 million podcast winners on the podcast, some kind of survey board or whatever it is. But we were one of the top 10 conservative female podcasts. Yay! Hey, woohoo! So we are still excited about that. Yes, go to our page. You can see more of it. You can, again, like, share, and subscribe it. Share it all over the world. But certainly we are ladies, so you can buy us a lipstick for making that list.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And folks, we will be back. We'll be back on Wednesday night at 9 p.m. right here on Poppin' Politics. Until then, check out some of our other shows. The Right Verdict, right, Nicole?
Oh my gosh, The Right Verdict is our labor of love. It comes on every Thursday at 10 p.m. when the kids are asleep and you ready to settle down, get some popcorn, some red wine, and get ready to go through it. We do not hold back on this show. We talk about race, we talk about the law, and it gets a little raw, a little edgy. It's very much who we are as people, but you will enjoy this show. So plan to be a part of our jury pool, as we like to call it. Become a member of the new channel, and you will thoroughly enjoy this every Thursday at 10 p.m.
All right. Absolutely. And folks, if you want a biblical perspective, check me out, me and Michelle on Christian Conservative. Go right on over there to @KJ Christian Conservative. We just had a show last night talking about the viral video out here in Maryland of the young girls. They look no older than 11. One was 11, I think. One was 14. Another was 16. Arrested in Target for vandalism, allegedly. And they cussed, little 11-year-olds cussing out the police, being aggressive with them. And folks, we talked about why are we seeing this in our young people? What is going on? Unchecked sin. And Many parents are not following biblical principles. We went into it, brought it right down to the biblical foundations of this, why we're seeing this happen. Check us out at KJ Christian Conservative. It was an awesome, awesome show last night. And then check out Just the Guys. Just the Guys podcast is back. They were on Saturday. Just the Guys podcast. You can catch them every Saturday at 6:30 p.m. where they give you a male's perspective on all of these things. So check them out. Again, Just the Guys podcast at 6:30 p.m. Right here on YouTube. All right. Well, that does it for us tonight. Thank you all so much for watching. We will see you on Wednesday. We may pop in tomorrow. You never know. But we'll see you. Until next time, count your blessings and live a life of purpose. Good night.
Good night, everybody.